Hello. So, I wanted to make a video explaining um, why people do the things they do, take the courses of action that they take, and why it's, not as simple as good versus bad. So, here we have um, a, a, um, a picture I made. And at the top it says, reason is the apex of circumstance. And so, as you can see, you've got Batman over here, and you've got Blob over here. And you'll note the mathematical symbols for multiplication, division, subtraction, and addition. And so, and then you'll see these boxes all located around these circles that our two characters are in. And so anyway, let me explain this and what it has to do with people's decision making. Okay, so up the top, above the addition symbol, we have the box that says values in it. In the box near to the division symbol, we have direction assigned in that box. Below the subtraction symbol, principles, and beside the multiplication symbol, you can see the word mirror in the box. Anyway, so let me explain this, okay? So you've got good-looking people who are good-looking by virtue of their physics. So naturally, endowed with physical virtues, and Batman represents them. Then over here, you've got the people who are not so lucky, if you want to say lucky, and Blob represents them. And so this box that has the word mirror in it is very important, and it's very important why it's located beside the multiplication symbols of each of our characters, because each of our characters represents a different kind of person, and a different kind of person by chance of circumstance. So if you think of the word circumstance, you're going to break it apart, and you're going to have the idea of something circular, and then a stance is in standing, where you stand in a continuum, basically. And so this is the way I sort of see people, is that they're in this continuum that's mathematical, and and it's sort of the four stations of the cross, if you will permit me to express a symbolically Christian connection there, and why I think Christianity caught on as big as it did symbolically. The four stations of the cross, the way I see it, the four stations are multiplication, division, subtraction, and addition. And so if you are blessed with physical virtues, because those are the objective virtues, right? So your metaphysical virtues are the subjective virtues. Your physical virtues are the objective virtues. In other words, they're the virtues that, you as an object are in possession of, whereas metaphysical virtues are virtues that you as a subject are in possession of. So we're talking about objective virtues here. So, objective virtues versus objective vices, essentially, right? So here, you can see Batman beside his, pointing to his multiplication sign. We have the box that says generally accepted. And over here, we have Blob, and pointing to his multiplication symbol, we have the box that says generally rejected. And so, when you make the connection between those, generally accepted versus generally rejected, and the box that says mirror, then you begin to understand that, let's say you have a scenario where our Batman is walking down one side of the street and our Blob is walking down the other side of the street, and they meet with the eyes. Well, they'll mirror one another for a short moment, okay? The point to keep in mind is that every body, so keeping it physical, keeping it objective, every body equals mirror, a mirror expressing either physical attraction, which puts you in the sphere, in the continuum of our Batman, or physical distraction, in other words, distance of traction, that puts you in the sphere, in the continuum of our Blob. So anyway, depending on which sphere you land in by your genetics, your physical makeup, the cursus of your object form, you're going to have a different, comprehension of the, what the stations of the cross are. So as we can see here, because our Batman is blessed with, physical virtues, objective virtues, his direction, is his values. In other words, the values that he naturally imbibes from the world. That becomes his direction, so he goes towards his values. But as a side effect of that, his principles mandate that he has everything to lose. So thus his existence takes on a whole new meaning. It becomes very, very important. Not only does, his life, become very important, his existence become very important, but it has an effect, an outreaching effect, if you will, where everybody else's existence also becomes incredibly important. Blob, on the other hand, you can see that his direction, it's just going around and around and around and around. And his values point to questions that, circulate in his mind because he's in a state of physical distraction, so physical distance of traction. The questions that are circulating in Blob's mind are, what's in it for me? What's the point? Because you see, Blob is looking for a point to direct himself towards. And, because of this, because he's in a state of physical distraction, his principles point to him having no thing to lose. So life, existence, takes on a different meaning from the meaning that our Batman perceives and receives. And so for Blob, he has nothing to lose because he wasn't blessed with the physical virtues. Instead, he was cursed with physical vices, objective vices. And so you see, Blob is going to keep asking, what's in it for me? What's the point? Because he needs a North Star. He needs something to shoot for. Our Batman, by virtue of his natural innate physics, already has something to shoot for, which is his values, because his values accord with the physical world, with the physical order, the way it is in currency. Blobs don't, okay? And so, someone who falls into the sphere of Blob doesn't have anything to lose. So you need to, if you want them to go along with your plan, you're going to have to offer them something that is beyond the here and now, beyond the currency of the current world, because the current world rejects them. And now you've got to keep in mind also that most people, by the fact, so the perception, and the truth, so the reception of corruption, so company of rupture, of deviated selectivity, shall we say. Most people are going to fall into the Blob camp here, just because there's so much disorder, so much distance of order, that it's very easy nowadays, and especially with the advent of the internet, for people to choose deviated courses to go down. And so things become even more deviated, things become even more ruptured, corrupted as a result. And so there are more Blobs than there are Batmans. Okay, now in any 360 plus populations, there are going to be more Blobs than there are going to be Batmans. It's just, the larger a population grows, the more people, tend to lean on the outlook of others. The more they tend to be less individually motivated, and they become more collectively motivated. So you got to watch out for that. Well, it's too late now in the current world. But anyway, if you want to change the world, if that's something that you think that the world is worth saving, I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm not making a moral or an ethical argument for the salvation or lack thereof of the world. But I'm saying if you want to, if it's a driving factor, if it's a driving motivation for you to save others, then what you're gonna want to do is you got to decide first off and foremost, which of these continuums are you going to, side with? Which of these spheres are you going to set your tent up and camp in? Because, it's, that's the first decision you have to make. You have to pick a side, and they both have good reasons for going in the directions that they go in, right? So our Batman's reason would be, well, this is what's natural to me. So, you know, how can you justify denying someone their nature, right? That's tricky to justify, you know, the denial of another's nature. Like that is, you know, that's who they are. You know, you're essentially killing them if you deny their nature. You know, you're in your own eyes and your through your own codec, you are committing a uh, a homicide of objectivity, because that is their nature if they are a Batman. If they're a blob, you know, how can you justify allowing them to continue to suffer uh, in a world where they are, you know, by nature constantly, you know, through, you know, the years of their lives, constantly the victims of, you know, unfair judgment by the fact that they didn't decide their physics, and so they just, you know, how do you justify allowing their suffering to continue if you can do something about it, if you can stop it? But anyway, so you have to decide which of the two continuums, you know, you're going to set up shop in. And then after that, if you decide to follow Team Batman, you've got to expect that you are siding with the minority. You're not really following the philosophy of Socrates at this point. You're now wholly invested in the Nietzschean pursuit of the Übermensch. And if you decide to, you know, follow Team Blob, you've got to reconcile that, you know, you are potentially, you know, basing your whole philosophy on a scientific on a scientifically concluded mistake, you know, from the perspective of hierarchical worth, right? So if you're looking at things in a very dichotomized manner, you can just, you know, if you in order to see, you know, the dichotomy of others, you can't have a spiritual codec through which to pick up on, right? You're going to have to look at things in the realm of physics to dichotomize another. And so, you know, essentially when you choose Team Blob, you're not, you know, really, you're not really being, you know, straight with people, because in order to even get to the choice where you choose to, you know, follow Team Blob, you would have had to have, you know, used your own science to dichotomize and to dichotomize others, to come to physical conclusions, to, you know, to make the choice. And so you're gonna have to accept that you are a hypocrite if you follow Team Blob. Most likely you're a hypocrite, and you're doing things, you know, basically for the same reason Blob does things. So you look at Blob's values, again I say it, they point to questions like, what's in it for me? What's the point? That's the apex of Blob's circumstance, are his values. You know, the apex of Batman's circumstance is his direction. So there is a inborn innocence to Batman that doesn't exist in Blob by fact of their mirrored distinction. Now, something something that I find interesting is, you know, um, I think it's in Sleeping Beauty, if I'm remembering correctly, but the evil queen, she looks at a mirror and she says, mirror, mirror on the wall. No, it's not Sleeping Beauty. It's Snow White. It's Snow White. That's the right one. The queen, the evil queen, she says, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Now, if you think about fairest, that is really, that's in a way that's saying, evened out, in a way that's saying most, you know, most established, most esteemable, most perfect, in a sense. And so, obviously, we know somewhat of how that old tale turns out. The evil queen isn't the fairest of them all. And so, but I bring that up because that mirror, mirror on the wall is, is basically alluding, it's an it's intuitively alluding to what we see in one another's eyes when we go out in the street, when, we start to engage with the external stimulations of peopled environment. We start to see, other people, their perceptible and receptible interactions with us, defining position and, for some, direction, for others, confusion, or not really confusion, but sort of in a sense, or no, that's not the right word. Sort of like, I'm looking for a word that means lost without a clue. But it's not dawning in my mind right now. But anyway, that's what I mean. For some, interaction with the outside world of people just makes them feel even more lost and hopeless, because, they can't even find, the tools to, utilize their hands to actually make anything better of their lives. And so they just become eternally dependent, in a sense, at least mentally. And this is the thing, it's a prisoner mindset, to be to be set up in the sphere of Blob, which is why I ultimately think that, I think Nietzsche had a point. I'm not going to say I agree with everything Nietzsche professed, but I think that over Socrates, he had a point, of actually saving, the entirety of somebody, right? Because if you're going to think of the entirety of somebody, you don't just think about the metaphysics. You think about the physics as well, because that's what the metaphysics are springboarding all their ideas, feelings, and thoughts off of. And so, you really, it's, there's a yin and a yang. There's the sun and the moon. There is, the heads and the tails, of every coin, of every currency. and we are all existing, acting and reacting in a currency. And I think Nietzsche's whole body of his work um, points toward not deluding yourself about that, and realizing that, the physics aren't just, nothing. They aren't, they are a thing. They are absolutely a thing. And, it's like, you look at the difference between Plato and Aristotle. Plato was very much a believer in, in the, higher value of metaphysics. Whereas Aristotle was like, well, if metaphysics is so important, why is it not physical? Well, metaphysics, a lot of it is hypothetical construction, which links, albeit not by connection directly, but by relation to physics. So they work in tandem with one another. And so whatever, choice you make, whether you choose Team Batman or Team Blob, whether you follow the philosophy of Nietzsche or the philosophy of Socrates, you know, Plato or Aristotle, it it ultimately, you got to make a choice, and it's not just going to be, you can be, responsible for this, or you can be accountable for this, right? You're both. You go down the path of actually, using your own will, you know, and your own won't, then, you're both responsible and accountable, and you own your reason. You own your addition, okay? But you don't just own your addition, you own your multiplication, your division, your subtraction. You own all of it. So if people really want to be free thinkers, free feelers, free associators, free agents, free actors, then they gotta take all that comes along with it. One of the things I really don't like about social justice warriors, or conservative justice warriors, is that they think they can have it halfway. They think they can, they think that a side has all the land, a side has all the territory. I'm sorry, no, it doesn't. A side, does not have all the land, all the territory, all the people. A leader does not have all the organization, and never will, never has. And so, you have to accept that, if you're going to really, really engage with the world, then that's, that is something, you have to basically, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to erect your own crucifix and nail yourself up. And, that's what it means to really become a man. That's what it means to really become a woman. None of the shit that modern men and women talk about, where they're like, a man, provides for this, this, that, and the other. A woman is, embracing this, this, that, and the other. All these things that, this, red pill MGTOW shit, or this third wave feminist crap, none of all of that shit is just shit. It's not looking at, what is key to maturity, which is you actually use your will, and you use your won't, and you don't adopt, and you accept the backlash from, standing your ground. Anyway, that's what I want to talk about. Reason is the apex of circumstance. So think about yourself right now, where you are. Where are your principles? Where's your direction? What is your mirror showing you? And what the hell are your values? And think about what the hell are your values, especially because that is your reason. And you know, you don't want a terrible reason. Make sure it's a reason with answers, I would say. You know, not that I agree with everything, like, you know, Nietzsche or Ayn Rand professed. I certainly don't. I think that sometimes you can take things too far, and obviously I'm not a physical example of the, you know, libertarian, you know, movement, or you know, I'm not, you know, I'm not somebody who is going to, you know, fashion a mustache that's like Friedrich Nietzsche's, you know. Uh, just thought of something funny, like Adolf Hitler, you know, taking after Nietzsche, but he couldn't get the mustache right. Anyway, what was he saying? Yeah, even though I'm not really that big into Ayn Rand. I'm more into Nietzsche, but I'm not even that big into Nietzsche. I prefer other philosophers ahead of Nietzsche, even though I like some things Nietzsche wrote. But I see that, you know, the values of Nietzsche, of our Batman, you know, are actually answers. And I think that your one's values should be answers as opposed to questions. You know, though it's really, you think about it, it's like, you know, perceiving end versus receiving end. You know, reception comes up, it arrives with, at a lot of questions, such as, what's in it for me? What's the point? Perception, on the other hand, the point is direction. I just think maybe, you know, you got to choose the right direction. Anyway, have a good day. Peace. Meow.